Your September 13th edition of AM Sports Live is now on the air. Hello there, everybody. I'm Andrew Goldstein, and welcome to the show. We have a ton of NFL news to get you caught up on. We have predictions. We have a really weird interview involving Eminem that has been taking over Twitter that we're going to break down for you on the show. But before I introduce my co-host, there's just one item in the housekeeping segment this week that bears mentioning, and that is our absence on Tuesday. Essentially, we both decided to postpone the show, and here's why. When you get back to school, which we did on Monday, the smart thing to do is to keep pushing your bedtime forward and forward and keep pushing the time you get up earlier and earlier so you can adjust your clock to be in school mode. That's the smart thing to do. But that's boring and it sucks. So we both continued to go to bed at 1:30 and get up at 11 until the last day possible. Hence, after the first couple of days at school, we didn't want to see or talk to anybody when we got home. We just wanted to sleep as much as possible. But here we are on Friday, a little bit fresher, with readjusted clocks. Matt Markow. He's here. How's it going, man?
Well, yeah, you're right. It would have been the smart thing to do to keep pushing your bedtime up an hour, but we don't do that, do we? We're
No.
we're not that show. We're not that show.
we're not those people and we're not that show.
It's funny. The first week of school, the second day of school, I believe, I was riding home with one of our mutual friends,
Uh-huh.
and we just turned on. He just has the classic rock radio on,
Right.
and all of a sudden we hear Alice Cooper's "School Is Out for Summer." And we
That's
just
just to kick in the nuts
yeah,
right after you went back to school.
it's you couldn't have written if you saw that movie you'd be like this is unrealistic, but it was we just looked at each other and cracked up because first off that song not a very good song secretly, is it?
No, but in the context that it's supposed to be played in, you don't care. Like when you get out of school for summer, it doesn't matter what you're listening to. If a song's telling you you're out of school, you're gonna think it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, there is a sort of lasting popularity for songs that are kind of either describe a specific event like
Right.
School's Out for Summer or songs about cities, big cities
Or a
like
specific place or
a
something.
specific right like Frank Sinatra's New York, New York is
Hmm.
never going to go out of style or it because it's always going to be played right after the New Year's Eve ball drops because it's about the city that it's in and one of the most famous cities in the world. And really, if you want to make money writing a song, you should do it about some sort of event or city or place like that.
And I love Sinatra, I love New York, New York, but it's gonna end up in the top five on every what's the best Sinatra song list out there, and it's not nearly his best song, I think.
Really?
But it's because of event and place.
Well, no, I don't think it's his best song, but I think it's certainly in the top 10.
He's top 10, but like half the lists out there, because I've looked at a couple, I'll have New York, New York at number one or number two. And like, that's not necessarily true. But I definitely get what you're saying, but also I wouldn't know the experience of riding home in a car and playing the classic rock station because I ride the bus with lots of loud freshmen. And
Yes, yes. It's unfortunate because by the time you get to senior year, you've been through 3 years of well, first 1 year you were an annoying freshman
yes,
yourself,
yeah, so I can't really blame them. It happens to everybody, except for Ray, who is a normal dude.
right?
But he's like the only one among our friend circle who is just normal as a freshman.
And sophomore year, you're a little older. You're not quite as annoying as you were as a
Uh-huh.
freshman. Uh, but you just kind of put the earbuds in and tune
Hmm.
out the world. Junior year, you're like, all right, I need to get off this bus right now. And senior year, when you're up at 6:45 in the morning and there are freshmen on the bus that have probably been up for 2 hours and chipper as anybody and they're talking about what They did the night before.
But not just that, talking loudly on the morning bus, which is that's not passe. You let people get their sleep on the morning bus.
Exactly. And you just want to jump out of the moving vehicle and
Hmm.
into oncoming traffic.
Well,
So I really sympathize with the seniors that don't have the ability to drive themselves or catch a ride with somebody.
well, here's the thing. I was telling my dad, all right, I'm gonna take the bus this year. I'm, I don't really get up that late to the point where taking a car would be an advantage. My car's a pretty big guzzler. It gets like 11 or 12 miles per gallon.
Really?
It's kind of a,
What is
yeah,
this, a Hummer you're driving?
2001 Mercury Mountaineer, built like a steakhouse, handles like a bistro.
Wow.
And but it's, parking's going to be an inconvenience, blah 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 blah. I just don't think it's worth it. Okay, okay. After a week, I go back to him and I'm like, "Dad, I held out as long as I could. I need to start driving now. I just can't do the bus anymore." And
What was his response to that?
and he's like, "Yeah, I kind of knew that would happen." And
Well, I'm sure he went through the same thing.
uh-huh.
It's been probably going on since the Model T Ford came out.
Exactly. But the thing is, my bus in particular, it wouldn't be so bad if it weren't so overcrowded. Like, you know how on each bus there's like a three-seater and a two-seater for like fourth graders, only it's a
Yes,
two-seater and a one-seater for high school students.
absolutely.
You got people actually using them as three and two.
Wow,
And
really? So it's
yes.
pretty much
It is
totally
full to
packed.
it is filled to capacity. Like usually I have to scramble to take the one seater nearest the front of the bus because that's usually the one that people bypass, and that's like one of the few spots on the bus where you could keep the seating as it was originally intended. So the long and the short of it is I need to drive, and if I can do that, then we'll both be in much better mental states for the show.
By the way, on the topic of buses, has there ever been an unsafer vehicle of transport for teenage kids? You've got some guy who's probably an ex-con driving the bus at 6:45 in the morning, no seatbelts. It's just a giant cylinder with no seatbelts and no like crash. I'm sure there was no crash testing in the bus.
Mm.
Nobody wears a seatbelt. Everyone just kind of stands up and yells at each other. And the guy, of course, again, probably not the
And
most
not put it to
responsible
you this
adult.
way, I don't want if like a thunderstorm springs up or like a snowstorm and the roads get bad, I don't want that guy driving me.
No, it's very, very unsafe, wouldn't you say? In
Yeah.
in a world of regulations and rules.
Mm-hmm.
I,
It is, I feel. But contrary to the audience members out there, contrary to your opinion, whole show is not about school buses.
no,
We
only
it's
about 45 minutes and then we'll
only
switch off.
exactly. So just forward it to like minute 50 of the show and we'll start talking about NFL. No, Jets Patriots. I know that the reason why that conversation went on so long is that even though the Pats won, you didn't want to talk about this.
The more we can ignore the fact that they looked as bad as they've ever looked, the better.
Well, so let's take account of their three biggest injuries: Vereen, Amendola, Gronkowski. Vereen's out for most of the year. He's might
I
come.
think he might come back around week 10, week 11
All
maybe.
right, so he's out for at least half of it.
Half of it, yeah.
All right, so there's Vereen gone. Gronk and Amendola are coming back within the next 2 or 3 weeks,
Yeah, well,
if not next week.
the thing is though, as bad as they've looked without them, I don't want Belichick to rush Gronk back,
Mm-hmm.
especially or Amendola, but I can't. We can't have. Last year during the playoffs, Gronk got re-injured, and it seemed like he was ready. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was saying, okay, he's had the correct amount of time. They had a bye. He comes back in the divisional round. First play in, tries to catch a pass, lands on his forearm, re-breaks it. And that was when people thought he was ready. So now if you're gonna rush him back, maybe it seems like a little bit early. I don't know if that's the right way to go. I want him healthy for the playoffs. I don't care about right now against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team that looked pathetic against the Jets on last Sunday.
Well, here's the thing. I feel like maybe with all the injuries that they both had, both Gronk and Amendola are at the point where they might never be fully ready. Like they're always going to be an injury risk. I mean, if you see Amendola making a leaping catch or if you see a deep ball thrown to Gronk, aren't isn't part of you always terrified that something's going to happen to them?
Well, it's weird because in his first season, or his first two seasons, Gronk was pretty much indestructible.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Super Bowl came, Bernard Pollard.
The assassin.
It was just like that. Almost overnight, he turned from a guy that would, get completely leveled and just pop back up like nothing had happened.
And make like ridiculous leaping catches even though he's 6'4".
Yeah, and into a
I mean
guy
like
that
40 pounds.
into a guy that would dive for a ball kind of half-heartedly and break his forearm, and
Mm-hmm.
or block a be on
Block
the
for an extra
block
point.
for an extra point and break his forearm. And so I don't know if it's just bad luck because let's come on. How many times in history has the star tight end had his forearm broken blocking for an extra point? I
Yeah, but
mean,
how many times in history has the star tight end been blocking for an extra point?
believe me, my dad and I had a hour-long discussion about why Belichick did that. But you explained to me that tight ends usually stay in for special teams extra point blocking, even if they are the starters. Is that true?
Yeah, that is usually true. And I feel like if Gronkowski rather hadn't gotten injured, nobody would have said a thing about it. Just like if Mark Sanchez in the preseason this year hadn't gotten injured, nobody would have said a word about that. It's just that the line between something happening and something not happening, or victory and defeat in the NFL, the line between two extremes is so razor thin, and we let what happens affect our perceptions of everything. So hence, routine extra point, which Gronk has probably blocked for dozens of times without anybody saying anything, becomes idiot head coach sends in tight end.
Yeah. Well, on another thing, remember a couple years ago when Brady's hair was kind of and no one really wanted to say anything because he's Tom Brady, but it was a little bit embarrassing the style of his hair a couple
Mm-hmm.
years ago.
No, actually, I wanted to say things. I badly wanted to say things.
Well, Patriots fans didn't want to
You just
acknowledge.
pretend like it didn't happen.
Yeah,
Or pretend like Giselle made him get that haircut.
right, exactly. We'll file that under the him wearing Uggs and
Yeah, the wife made you do it.
yeah, and so, but what about Mark Sanchez? Because I saw him on the sideline
There
yesterday,
is no excuse for that.
and his hair. If you want to talk about extremely strange choices of hair,
All right, put it to you this way. For Mark Sanchez, when I've defended his booger wiping incident before,
hmm
I've defended him eating the hot dog on the sidelines against Oakland. I can't do it anymore, Mark. I did all I could for you, buddy, and the fumbling by running into somebody's ass, that set me over the edge. And by the way, we all talk about how Sanchez was at fault for that play, and I 100% agree, but nobody gives Vince Wilfork enough credit for slamming Brandon Moore back into him. The
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
But
nobody. I mean, like the absurdity of the play overshadowed it, but Vince Wilfork doesn't get nearly enough credit for like taking a 320-pound offensive lineman and essentially throwing him at the quarterback.
Vince Wilfork's great, but that
hmm
play is
And
one of the great bad plays in history.
it might be the greatest. Like I think we mentioned this last week. We might have on the radio show. The ESPN Worst of the Worst has retired it as the 40-time champion. Nothing
Yeah,
could beat it.
nothing could beat it.
After that, I just had to throw up my hands and say, "What the hell?" Like there's nothing more for me to say.
I
You
hope
fumbled off an ass.
I hope there's a long chapter about this in your new book.
Yet Yes, there will be a long segment about it. There's going to be at least 500 words spent on the butt fumble alone.
Unfortunately, today's not a day that I can totally make fun of the butt fumble, considering how bad the Pats looked last
That
night.
was a dreadful game. I thought I was watching like one of the Jets, like the Jets Cardinals or Jets Jaguars from last year. That targeted Aaron Dobson and Kenbrell Tompkins. Tom Brady did 17 times, and five of them were caught. And every single report coming out of Patriots camp in the preseason was about how Brady had such great timing with Kenbrell Tompkins, which is more impressive if there's, a cornerback on the field looking to break up the pass. I
Yeah,
mean, you and I have great timing running 10-yard slants in the backyard.
right, exactly. Maybe that's what they meant, but I the thing about that is it wasn't like well, there was some times where Brady was offline, and there was some plays like Tompkins had a diving play in the end zone
Hmm.
where it could have gone either way, and it got called incomplete.
Right.
But I think he was definitely more on the same page as Tompkins than he was with Dobson.
Right.
Aaron Dobson, the other rookie receiver that they drafted. By the way, Josh Boyce never saw the field last night, so
Well,
if he can't get on the field with those two in front
yeah,
of
I don't
him,
know what the hell has to happen for Josh Boyce to get on the field.
yeah. So Dobson was the one. He caught that long touchdown early, but that's only because the Jets completely blew the coverage, and he
Well,
was so wide open that
they
it
blew the
was.
coverage, but also I've got to say that was less the Jets' fault and more like excellent play design from New England because I would not have expected Brady to do that there. That was just a perfectly designed play action. They just faked the run, like the sweep play to Ridley, which is Ridley's by far most common type of running play, the sweep to the outside.
Sure.
And then that just suckered everybody and they had Dobson catch it over the top. And for those of you who were trapped under a rock last night, the Pats ended up winning 13 to 10. And well, if you had to pick a particular football game to be trapped under a rock for, you picked the right one.
It was a game where there was no flow, no rhythm at all. It was
Hmm.
three and out after three and out,
Right.
and there were penalties.
Although it was enjoyable to see Tom Brady bitching out his receivers.
Yeah, like I said to you earlier today, he really I don't like the way he was kind of showing them up a little bit
Yeah.
on the field. I mean, I understand he was mad. I understand he was frustrated. We were all mad too. But at a certain point, yelling at them and acting like a jerk like that isn't gonna improve their confidence or kind of endear them to him.
On the one hand, I think that, and that's kind of the rational side of your brain thinking, and also it's just kind of funny to see Tom Brady like that. But on the other hand, part of me thinks it's justified because, imagine if you were in Tom Brady's shoes that night. You're playing the team that you hate the most. I mean, they're a pushover, but you still hate them. You don't just want to beat them, you just want to humiliate them.
Which they have
Now,
many times in the
which they
past.
have many times in the past. You've been working with some of the best weapons in the game. Your front office over the offseason inexplicably lets some of them go for just about no reason. And, obviously Aaron Hernandez you can't do anything about, but Wes Welker you could have.
Bring
And
back Brandon Lloyd. I
it,
mean, he wasn't great, but he was certainly better than
and
what they
Aaron
have now.
Dobson.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now you're throwing these beautiful rainbow strikes, just perfect as usual. You're 36 years old. You don't have a lot of time left on your career. You're gunning for that last title. And then these schmucks come along that are just dropping everything you throw at them. They're completely misreading coverages, running the wrong routes. By the third quarter, don't you think you'd be yelling at them?
Yeah, plus he had to be mad because he probably saw what Manning did
Hmm.
with the 7 TD passes and Welker caught like 9 balls or something. It's like seeing breaking up with your ex-girlfriend and
And then, like, running into her, she's dating like a movie star. You have one of those, wow,
yeah,
I'm doing great
yeah,
conversations.
she's lost some weight.
Hmm.
She looks great.
And meanwhile, like, you're making minimum wage, you're
Yeah,
barely scraping together enough money for your mortgage.
yeah, you got fired from your job. You're working at the local Home Depot.
Hmm.
It's sad what happened to Tom, but I
No, it's not. It's absolutely fantastic what happened to Tom.
well, this is a time where the Pats got lucky because their schedule in the first 2 weeks they played two of the worst teams in the league.
If they were playing a half decent team, they would have lost last night, undoubtedly.
Two straight teams starting rookie QBs. I mean, you
Uh-huh.
can't ask for a better start to the season than that. And as bad as they looked, I thought their defense looked pretty good.
Well, he was against Geno Smith on the road, so you can't really put too much stock in that.
Yeah, that's true, but Chandler Jones was getting
Oh, that's
pressure.
true. That's true.
Uh, Ninkovich is really underrated, by the
He
way.
is.
He always shows up and he always makes clutch plays, and no one
Exactly.
ever talks about Rob
And he
Ninkovich.
does everything that you want him to do. He can cover most tight ends, he can rush, he can make tackles in the open field. I don't like I'm glad you actually brought this up because I'm not sure why people don't talk about Rob Dinkovich more.
No, no. I mean, he's never gonna get like 20 sacks,
Right.
but he is gonna get the key sacks, and he's gonna get the key pressures, and he's gonna make the key interceptions and the
Or like when a team's driving on 3rd and 3 and they throw a swing pass, he's going to be the one making the tackle in the open field.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But besides that, oh, Steve Gregory looked great too at
Uh-huh.
safety. Those were the two guys that really stood out for me.
Right.
And but besides that, even their special teams wasn't great. Edelman returning punts and
Gostowski missed that field goal.
Gostowski missed a field goal. Basically, the thing that kept them in the game was their defense, and that really hasn't been what the Patriots' game plan has been almost since like 2004, right?
Right. And I'm not worried yet for the Patriots. Patriots fans shouldn't be worried because I feel like if the past couple years have taught us anything at all, it's that you can't judge the Patriots in September. You start judging them like around Halloween, when everybody else starts to slide off a little bit, all the pretenders start to fade. Then suddenly the Pats out of nowhere just put the hammer down on somebody 42 to nothing. And you're like, "Whoa, where did the Patriots come from?"
If they can stay alive, win 9, 10 games, they're probably going to win the division.
I'd say they're
And
most definitely going to win the division.
well, people like Miami a lot this year. I've been hearing a lot of Miami talk lately, but
Mhm.
if they can do that by the end of the season, maybe Dobson and Tompkins and some of their new receivers learn the offense.
Maybe
And
Amendola will be back
yeah,
and healthy.
Vereen will be back. The thing I'm most concerned about is
Patriots Titans week 1, the return of Bernard Pollard. I'd
no,
be I'd be frightened to death about that.
no. I'm most concerned about the fact that there were 0 targets to tight ends last night,
Mm.
and it just seemed like they changed their whole offense. There was no they ran the no they ran what 84 plays last Sunday against
Mhm.
Buffalo. I mean, they just kept going fast paced, and last night it was just like they were in quicksand almost,
Right.
and they just did not run the creative offensive except for that first drive.
Mhm.
The creative plays that they usually run, the fast pace was completely gone. It was just a choppy, vanilla offense that I don't know if I've ever seen them run before. Pretty.
Also, it's kind of a shame just from a football lover's standpoint, not necessarily from a Jets fan standpoint. It's a shame that we've kind of bypassed the time and the era where Brady could throw deep. Because that's like 3 or 4 solid years of his career where he just had nobody who could stretch the field and catch passes more than 20 yards. And I feel like at this point it's too late. If they bring in someone next year, his arm strength is kind of eroded a little bit to the point where he can't do it anymore, and that's kind of a shame.
Yeah, every time he throws deep, it just looks like a duck up there.
Hmm.
I don't know, but he's looked like that for a long time though. He's never really, except for maybe the 2007 season.
Uh-huh, where he just had to chuck it up in Moss's general direction and he'd get it.
Yeah, except for that, he's never really been a big downfield passer. So,
I feel like that has more to do with the personnel around him than Tom himself.
maybe, but and also there was an interesting stat. Uh, Mike Mayock said that last year the Pats were like 70% successful in the red zone, which was one of the highest all time percentages. You know,
Wow.
and so and then of course last night they were like 1 for 5 or 1 for 6. They're way everything's way down this year. They had 11 punts and only 9 first downs. I can't remember a game where the Pats had more punts than first downs. I just can't.
Wow. And actually, this is a good segue. If any of our listeners want to message us that stat, because both Matt and I would be very interested in seeing when the last time that was. You can do that by clicking the little thought bubble on the toolbar under the live feed of AM Sports Live. That'll bring up a little box where you could type in any message you want, questions, comments, compliments,
Or email or Twitter us
or
too.
email or Twitter. So that's how you could comment us. Email us at amsportslive@gmail.com, Twitter at amsportslive1, Facebook page AM Sports Live, and it's more important that you do this now as opposed to before if you like the show, simply because as the school year goes on, as college stuff begins to kind of loom around the corner, the scheduling for this show might get a little bit weird. It might be on a Wednesday some weeks. We might have one show per week on some weeks. We might try to shoehorn in three because one of us might be, bogged down for the entirety of a particular week. It's just going to get a little bit weird, as it always does around school time. So, if you want to stay up to date on all the latest scheduling news for the show, you can do so at AM Sports Live 1 on Twitter or at AM Sports Live on Facebook. So,
So, well, back to the game. How did you feel about Gino overall? Obviously, in the end, he kind of gave away the game a little bit, but
I I felt first of all like his receivers gave him no help whatsoever. I mean, there was like seven drop balls on Gino, and
yeah, he was
I
in the same situation as Brady was.
but
Yeah,
also the whatever you could say about the Patriots' offensive performance last night, you couldn't say that it was Brady's fault. Brady was kind of zinging him in there pretty well. It's just that his receivers couldn't handle it. I can say that the Jets' loss was Gino's fault. He threw some horrendous passes, and also this just really scares me when there's nothing going on, when he can't fit the ball into his first read, he'll keep putting his hand on the football, like he'll keep pumping it and retracting it,
sure.
or like he'll keep dropping back into the pocket.
Yeah,
And then there was like six times in the game where I'm just screaming, "Get rid of it!
yeah,
Just I don't care what you do, just get it the hell out of your hands right now. Run, do something."
yeah.
And he just doesn't do it. He just keeps waiting for something to get open, and you can't do
He's
that.
very indecisive,
Hmm.
and whenever it seemed like he tried to get out of the pocket and run a little bit,
He decided to do it like 1.5
yeah,
seconds too
he
late.
waited too long, or he didn't even do it at all at certain points, and he kind of just ran into sacks
Hmm.
or just got tackled for a lot, threw the ball away or whatever. And yeah, I agree. He definitely didn't have any help, but he threw some bad passes. But also the Jets defense,
The
I,
front seven looked pretty
they
good
look pretty good, but I don't understand why at a certain point they wouldn't just triple team Edelman or
because it's really hard to do that. I mean, it's one thing if you're triple teaming a guy like Randy Moss where he's operating in a ton of space, like 20 yards downfield, so You could stick a corner on him, you could stick a safety on him, you could have a linebacker drop back. The whole the whole value of Julian Edelman is that the ball gets to him quickly. Like the inside receiver runs a pick play, so the corner covering him is obstructed for just a second, and by the time he gets there, the ball's in Edelman's hands. So it's really tough to do that with people in the slot.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but I feel yeah, that's true because he was only getting like 7 or 8 yards per catch,
Right.
but still, if you're the Jets defensive coordinator, you know he's Brady is only throwing to Edelman, right?
Oh, by the way, this actually seems like a really good time to mention that D. Milliner got abused in coverage last night. I'm officially depressed that Revis is gone, but this guy looked like he had no clue what he was doing, and that was against Aaron Dobson.
Right, exactly. Well, now you know how Pats fans feel who haven't had a good corner besides Aqib Talib and
Oh,
the.
you've won 3 Super Bowls in the last 15 years. Boo-hoo. Cry me a river.
All right. Well, you've made it to a couple AFC Championship games yourself recently, so. But yeah, it was a terrible game. But the thing that well, how about at the end? What do you think about what happened at the end where Talib picked off that last
He should have
pass?
just run right out of bounds. I don't like the hit that Mangold put on him. I think it was quite literally a low blow.
Yeah, that
But
that could have been really dangerous too because that was right at the knees and
yeah, but also Talib put himself in that situation by not running out of bounds.
yeah, but he was going out of bounds by the time that Mangold was he could probably see that he was going out of bounds at a certain point and he just kind of dove at the knees there and I can see well I would say both sides are kind of at fault
hmm
but a hit like that Mangold's probably going to get fined.
Yeah, he's getting that envelope from the league on like
I
Saturday.
saw Rex was complaining that two Jets players were ejected from the game and no Pats players were ejected.
Well,
So
it doesn't really matter. There's 30 seconds left, Rex.
yeah, well,
Um, well, let's get off this game because it's depressing for both of us.
hold
And
on.
oh,
Predictions for the Jets moving forward because
I hate to say it, but like 6-10.
they had that one lucky. You have to admit, last week lucky win. They deserved to lose.
Well,
This week,
here's how I justify that. Both teams deserve to lose that game because it's not like the Bucks dominated them.
this week actually probably also both teams deserve to lose. But
Uh-huh. Like that should be an option. Like somebody could decide neither team played well enough to win. This will count as a loss for both of them.
yeah, so 6-10, you're saying?
6-10, and I'm really depressed about it
Yeah,
because
because clearly Gino is not the QB that you're looking for.
we'll play ourselves right out of Jadeveon Clowney, right out of Teddy Bridgewater. We're gonna get like the eighth pick.
When do you think Manziel's gonna go?
I don't know, but I know that the Jets are absolutely gonna take a chance on him.
Okay.
Just because it seems like a Jets thing to do to take a chance on Johnny Manziel. Well, also the only Super Bowl we've ever won was with a cocky SEC quarterback that people either loved or hated and was a pop culture icon as well as a sports figure. So, you know, who knows?
That's true. But as I've said, very overrated because of that one moment. But
hmm
if you look at his career stats, underwhelming as anything.
Well, for Joe Namath, here's how I justify his legacy. If you're making a list of the best quarterbacks of all time, or who you'd want as the quarterback if you were starting a franchise, he doesn't make the list. I'll grant you that. But if we're making a list of the most influential or the most important players of all time, he absolutely makes the list.
Also, one of the great sideline
One of
interviewees.
the great sideline interviewees too. But I mean, like you say that in jest, but if one of us were a sideline reporter, would we want to go interview the coach that's trying to find some way to say, I have no effing idea how we'll stop Tom Brady? Or do I want to go interview a drunk Joe Namath who could say absolutely anything? I want to go interview Joe Namath.
Yes, that's
And
right.
it was the same way in his playing days.
All right. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I agree. I agree.
So, week two picks. Uh, by the way, for reference to our NFL wins pool, which I have right here, so far Ray is in the lead at 5 points. Matt and I are tied at four. Liam's bringing up the rear at three. Um, okay, week two. Rams at Falcons to kick off the 1 o'clock games.
Well,
This is interesting.
this is interesting because the Rams look pretty good
He
on
did.
Sunday.
I like Robert Quinn, the
The
defensive end. He got
defensive
three
end,
sacks. I
yes.
think every year it seems like there's a new pass rushing sensation. I think this year it's going to be Robert
I,
Quinn.
I think he's been pretty good for a while
He
now,
has,
though,
but
but
nobody's noticed
no,
because
because
he's
he's on
played
the
on the same
Rams.
team as Chris
Yes.
Long and he's on the Rams.
Yes. And well, Jared Cook also at tight
hmm
end, which I loved because he was on my fantasy team.
So you have Jared Cook, you have both Longs, Jake and Chris. You
Hmm.
have Robert Quinn, you have Janoris Jenkins, James Laurinaitis. Like the Rams have some pieces.
Cortland Finnegan.
But Cortland Finnegan, I feel like he's overrated. He's a trash talker, but he's not particularly good.
I think in terms of corners, he's pretty. I don't
He's
know.
decent, I guess.
Maybe, but yeah, it all. I think it all depends on Sam Bradford's development, and he looked really good on Sunday. So
I'd take the Rams here actually because
yeah,
right, if you watch the Atlanta New Orleans game last year, or sorry, not last year, last week, Roddy White couldn't do a thing. I feel like his ankle injury or whatever's going on is legitimate, and it took the Saints like a quarter and a half to realize that they didn't need to worry about Roddy White. So I kind of like the upset here. What do you think?
well, that's true, but I can't envision a scenario where the Falcons go to 0-2. So
All right.
I think it's I love the Rams this year, but it's too much to ask for them to pull out the upset.
All right. So you went with the Falcons, I went the Rams. Okay. Chargers at the Eagles. So this was probably the biggest news from week one, depending on how you felt about Peyton Manning throwing 7 touchdowns. The Eagles just, you wouldn't know it from the score against the Redskins. They won 33-27, but they were up 33-7 at one point. They just obliterated Washington. And
Yes, I saw some looks that I've never seen before, and the
the one
pair.
with the two offensive linemen
Yeah,
lined up by the wide receiver, that was
yes.
ingenious.
Yeah, and well, one of the reasons why Washington came back is that they completely toned down their
Yeah,
offense.
then they backed up their defense. The safeties were playing like 20, 25 yards off the line
From
in a
from what I, from
Mhm.
what I heard in interviews, I believe either Vic or Chip Kelly said that they only showed about what 60% of their offense could do. They were only running on like 60% on Monday, so that's scary right there.
But that's the thing. For me, the issue with the Eagles offense isn't succeeding when it's sped up because we know they can do that. It's succeeding when you're slowing it down because there's a reason you don't do that offense all the time because you can't win if your defense is on the field for 38 minutes every game. So the Eagles kind of, for me to really buy the Eagles, they're going to have to show me that they can do it with a 12 play drive that takes 8 minutes off the clock, in addition to the 22-second rapid fire Chip Kelly thing. But
Plus, Vic is definitely going to get hurt this year.
oh,
There,
it's not an if, it's just a when.
there were a couple plays where Vic dove for a first down or something, and
Yeah,
he
then
just got.
every Eagles fan was like, "Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh
Yeah,
God, don't do it, don't do it."
we don't want Nick Foles. Nick Foles running that offense would be terrible, right?
Right. It would just be like the least exciting thing. It'd be like plugging Aaron Dobson and Kendall Tompkins into the Patriots no huddle.
Cheap shot.
Yeah, it
Yes,
was. All right,
yes.
so we all agree that we're not feeling the Chargers in this one.
I'm not feeling the Chargers ever.
It
Yes.
Oh, by the way, that's another interesting thing we should touch on. Chargers blowing a 21-point lead on Monday night uh a couple of days ago to the surprise of absolutely nobody. Like once the Texans cut it to 28-14, both you and I were like, okay, there's only one way this can end.
Yeah, well, the Texans are a better team, and Phil Rivers has blown so many games in his career. It's
hmm
it's not It's not surprising whatsoever.
I
He,
love it when Phil Rivers blows a game and his like face turns red and he
yeah,
just starts yelling at everybody on the
he's like
sidelines.
the Tony Romo that doesn't win in the regular season.
Yeah, I feel like the Tony Romo's reputation as a choke artist has been slightly overrated, while Philip Rivers has been slightly underrated. I think we're just starting to realize it now.
Well, on the right team, do you think Philip Rivers could kind of bounce back, resurrect his career? Because honestly, he hasn't had any weapons since about 2009 or 2008.
I'm kind of hesitant because I don't really know. I mean, I I guess so, but when Philip Rivers was really successful, he was looking deep on every single play. Vincent Jackson was way out there. They still had Chris Chambers and he was still good. He was running some deep post routes. So it would have to be a very specific type of team because,
Maybe say the Dolphins.
yeah,
You
it's
replace
either
Tannehill with Phil Rivers. He's got Mike Wallace there.
it's either with Philip Rivers, it's either gun it downfield or check down.
Right.
He can't throw that 12 or 15 yard out. Or at least if he can, I haven't seen it in recent years. But all right, so we both like the Eagles there. Next game on the docket, Cowboys at the Chiefs.
That's
This
going to
is
be an interesting
interesting.
game, yes. The Chiefs are at home this game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we discussed before Arrowhead Stadium, really, really tough place to play.
Right.
And the Chiefs looked great last week, and I think everything's pointing towards the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it is too. I feel like it's the Cowboys got their big win on opening night, and I feel like they might be looking ahead, perhaps, to some other tough games on their schedule. They might get a little bit complacent after that win over the Giants. I think they did last year, and I'm gonna look that up right now. What happened after their opening night win against the Giants last year? But I like the Chiefs here too. I really love what Andy Reid's been able to do. I think he's revitalized that defense. Yeah, I was just watching this Chiefs team, and it was like a completely different team from last year. I was shocked. It was just, uh, I'm just watching them, and I'm like, are these the same players that went 4-12 or 3-13 last year? As they looked infinitely better.
Well, it's a big difference when you can get a competent quarterback and a competent head coach.
By the way, the Cowboys did lose in Seattle 27-7 last year after their opening night win against the Giants. And Seattle and Kansas City 1-2 in terms of toughest places to play in the NFL, I feel.
Yeah, everything's pointing towards the Chiefs.
So,
I think you have to take the Chiefs in this game.
but after this, Thursday night, Chiefs Eagles, Andy Reid goes back to Philly. The Chiefs could potentially be 3-0 with victories over the Cowboys and Eagles.
Yeah.
So,
Oh
there you
well,
go.
I don't think Philly fans I think Chip Kelly would get an earful if Andy Reid won in Philadelphia.
I feel like the Andy Reid Philadelphia divorce was one of those things where there's not a lot of bad blood on both sides. I feel like at least some Eagles fans will give him a standing O. He's not getting unanimously booed or anything. I think he was a good coach and it was just time to move on.
Yeah, that's
That's what I
probably
feel.
true.
And speaking of moving on, we're gonna go to the next game. Dolphins at the Colts.
I think we can both agree that the Colts are the better team, right?
Nuh-uh. I don't think
Really?
the Colts are that good. I mean, if you looked at them last week, I mean, they were overshadowed by Terrell Pryor, that whole story, and the Raiders almost beating them.
Yeah.
They were generating very little pass rush.
Oh, their
And
defense is
their
horrible.
defense is garbage. I don't know who blocks anybody on their offensive line. Like, who are they throwing at Cameron Wake? Because actually, the Browns tried uh, throwing a running back and or a tight end at one of the top 10 pass rushers in the league. And when they showed the replay of like some fullback trying to block Cameron Wake one-on-one, I'm like, okay, you're free to try. Good luck with that, buddy.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
but that's essentially what he's going to be facing with the Colts because I don't know if they have a guy that's good enough to go toe to toe with Cameron Wake.
Well, listen, I agree that their offensive line has some problems. Their defense was horrendous last year and clearly hasn't changed much this year. But the Dolphins also, do you think they're really that good this year?
I don't think they are either,
They've
but
got they've got a
I think
decent.
they have a sneaky good defense. I don't think their offense will be as good as everyone projected.
Their
I think that Mike
offense.
Wallace is going to be a bust, but I think their defense is legitimately
Yeah,
good.
this is all you need to know about their offense. Their number one wide receiver was complaining about the amount of looks he got in a win. So there's clearly a disconnect there.
Well, also, it bears mentioning that if Mike Wallace wanted to see more touches or more targets, maybe he should have, I don't know, tried to get some separation from Joe Hayden. I mean, you got nobody but yourself to blame, buddy.
Yeah, I always thought he was a little bit overrated and mostly just a kind of a speed deep threat,
hmm
but
It
I don't know.
it always kind of entertains me when I hear wide receivers complaining about how few targets they get. I mean, it's not like the quarterback is something personal against you. It's that you're not open. Like if you're standing 20 yards downfield waving your arm with nobody around you and he's still not throwing it to you, then you have a legitimate gripe, but that like almost never happens. It's your own fault for not separating. So that's kind of always how I thought about it.
Right, right.
All right. We move on to Texans over the Titans. This is my Eliminator Challenge pick.
Yeah, well, the Titans look pretty dreadful, right?
No, they look pretty good against the Steelers,
Oh,
but
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was thinking about the Steelers. Right. That game in itself was dreadful, but
that's the thing. I feel like everybody's overreacting to that. Like, Tennessee might be good, blah 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 blah. It's because week one is, as Football Outsiders puts it, National Jump to Conclusions week.
sure. I've
And
done some of that myself.
oh, I do that all the time. But if I had to pick one team that looked pretty good in week one that everybody's going to overreact to, that will just come crashing down to earth, it would be Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
Because their strategy essentially amounted to run Chris Johnson into the line over and over. That's it.
And that can work against the Steel Gang, but not against J.J. Watt and company.
And because against the Steelers, they could just keep on rushing Ben Roethlisberger, keep on defending the bubble screens that Todd Haley is gonna call. It's just like the most uninventive offense ever. But against the Texans with a good offensive line, good running back, fairly innovative offensive coordinator Wade Phillips, I don't feel like Tennessee's going to match up very well with them.
Yeah, you and I are simpatico on that.
All right, so simpatico on Texans Titans, Redskins at the Packers. Now,
That's an interesting game because RG3 definitely looked rusty. Am I am
by
I
the
right?
way, are we sure that either team is good? Are we sure that the Redskins or the Packers are good this year?
Well, the Packers definitely have some problems defensively, as they
On
always
the
do.
offensive line too.
And the offensive
I don't
line,
like
yeah.
teams that lose their left tackles.
The thing I always find funny about watching Packer games is the announcers always show Dom Capers about 7,000 times
Uh-huh.
in his office upstairs in the booth upstairs, and they always talk about what a genius and a guru he is.
Why?
And if you look at the last, I don't know, 4 years, maybe 3 years, Packer defense,
It sucked.
it was close to the worst defense, worst defenses in the league, right?
Right. And well, they're making a big deal because he has that weird psycho defense where there's like one down lineman and everybody else is roaming around, but just because you have a unique defense doesn't mean you have a good defense.
No, they give up yards by the bushel
By the bushelful.
They give up chunks of yards.
Chunks, yes.
I mean, their defense couldn't stop a nosebleed.
Yeah, in the words of the great philosopher Bart Scott. And also, I love it how every year, or like every 4 or 5 games, the announcers mention that the Packers, like this was the game that the Packers were gonna commit to the run, and Like they always mention, oh, and such is gonna see a heavy workload in this game. I talked to Mike McCarthy beforehand, and he told me he wants to get this guy 15 carries. He wants to work this guy into the office. By the second quarter, it's just pass, 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 and it's like Eddie Lacy, who?
Yeah, exactly. And they drafted Eddie Lacy specifically to be the guy, and
They just
they
tossed
just
that poor Eddie Lacy aside.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and then we had the Redskins, and I'm not sure the Redskins are good either because I don't see anybody in the secondary who can cover on the Redskins. I don't see anybody on the offensive line who's particularly good.
Their receivers weren't impressive either. Pierre Garcon clearly coming back from his injury
I think the
still.
Packers take this game and the Redskins kind of stumble out of the gates here. What do you think?
Well, they always say when in doubt, take the home team. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the Packers.
All right, so Browns at Ravens.
Speaking of two teams that aren't any good, I mean the Ravens this year.
Uh, Hold on, National Junta Conclusions Week. We can't do that yet.
Uh,
I'm waiting on that.
you think it was just that the Broncos were so impressive that it totally.
Well, but that's the thing. The Ravens hung with them for a while.
Yeah, that's true, but you never felt like their offense was running at the full
At full
speed,
tilt. Yeah, I get it.
especially after watching them in the playoffs and watching them in week one. It's a night and day difference.
But I feel like people are asking themselves the wrong questions with the Ravens. Are they the class of the AFC? Are they the best team in the American Football Conference? Probably not. But we knew that before we went into the season. But are they good enough to win the AFC North? Probably, right?
Well,
Which is irrelevant since I'm picking the Browns to win the AFC North. I'll never give up on you, Cleveland.
well, the thing about the Ravens is their I would say their best offensive skill player is Ray Rice. Is
Uh-huh.
that fair to say? But I don't know. For some reason, he didn't look too good on
He hasn't
Wednesday.
looked good since like I'm gonna
Yeah,
say week 14 or 15. Like ever since 4th and 29, he hasn't looked the
yeah,
same.
he hasn't looked the
They've been
same
giving
for
some
some
carries to
reason.
Bernard Pierce
I don't know what's
and
going on
making
with
me
him.
angry that I have Ray Rice as a starter.
Yeah, he's definitely something happened. I don't
Hmm.
know what it was, but when he's
Well,
your
Jim Caldwell happened.
yeah, that's probably it actually.
The
Yeah, you're right.
unblinking mannequin happened.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and he's their most explosive offensive player, so that's definitely bad for the
And then you got
offense.
Jacoby Jones down now.
Right.
Well, all sorts of bad things, but you still like the Ravens over the Browns at home?
Well, you're a big Browns believer, but yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the Ravens.
I'm I'll never let go of you, Cleveland.
Sure.
Cleveland Browns. That's the thing. I can't hop off the bandwagon after week 1, especially when everybody in the North lost. Uh, let's see. We have two more 1 o'clock games left. Panthers at the Bills. Panthers were really good against the Seahawks.
Yeah,
Their front seven did a fantastic job against Marshawn Lynch.
they really should have won that game. There were a bunch of turnovers, especially at the
That
end.
one last turnover with Richard Sherman stripping D'Angelo Williams.
There were other turnovers in the
Uh-huh.
game that definitely swung it, and I think the Panthers are going to be good this year. Obviously, I picked them for the wins pool, and yeah, I would say the Panthers win this pretty handily. But you can never count out the other team because they just love to give the game away at the end for some reason. So
I'd actually take the Bills for that reason. The thing about the Panthers is when they can't connect on you, when you have time to throw, their secondary is awful. I mean, they're starting at corner Captain Munnerlin, Haruki Nakamura,
the
Josh
captain.
Norman, the captain, yes. But once again, who covers anybody? Because somebody needs to pick up Stevie Johnson, and it's not going to be the captain.
No,
Uh,
no, definitely not. But you're giving a lot of credit to Stevie Johnson, unfortunately.
I think he's good. I feel like Stevie Johnson is a above average receiver, and I feel like EJ Manuel's gonna hit him for 2 touchdowns.
That's
Uh,
a bold prediction.
yeah, that's write it down, folks. Stevie Johnson start on fantasy 2 touchdowns. Uh, I'm
Uh,
gonna take the Bills in an upset. That's my pick of the upset special of the week.
all right, I'm going to the Panthers, but yeah, okay.
All right, so last 1 o'clock game. Oh, this is taking a long time. Vikings at the Bears. Are we
Well,
sure that the Vikings don't suck?
I think we're pretty sure of that. Yeah, their whole offense is AP, and they completely got their doors blown off by the Lions. And except for that one big run in the beginning of the game last week, AP was kind of bottled up a little bit. And then of course, when the game is left up to Christian Ponder,
When anything is left up to Christian Ponder, that's a
right?
bad sign. But actually, this is Adrian Peterson's performance last week is kind of a nice litmus test for who was watching the game and who wasn't. Like asking them, hey, how'd Adrian Peterson do this past week? If they responded amazing or whoa, we scored me so many fantasy points, you know you have somebody who didn't actually watch the game.
He did score a lot of fantasy
You did
points.
well, he had that 78-yard touchdown run,
It
and they fed the ball to him 2 times when they were inside the 5, but if you took out that 78-yard run, he had like almost negative yardage, I think.
I think yeah, pretty much. But I think that the Bears are definitely the better team, and they're
But funky stuff always happens in those divisional games.
well. That's what you said last week about the Lions and the Vikings, and
And it did. The
it
Lions came pretty close to blowing it early.
early, yeah, that's true. But that's again, they're like the Panthers, where they like to give games away, have stupid defensive penalties. But yeah, I think
That's why I love when the Panthers play the Lions. It's like just 30 or 40 points from each team, like a total of 7 turnovers.
here you take the game. No,
No,
you
you
take it.
take it.
I don't want it.
It's
You
the
take
dinner
it.
check game where you see like the two adults fighting over the check. No, let me pay it. No, I got it. No, I've got it.
Yeah, that would be great to see
hmm
that game. I don't know if they've ever played though.
They have. I think the Lions took it 35-27 back in 2010. But I remember
That was
that being an
before the Matt
entertaining game.
Stafford era though, or
No, that was
first year, right?
no 2011. My bad. It
Oh,
was
okay.
yeah, it was Stafford and Cam Newton. That was his rookie year. So yeah, that would be an entertaining game. You're taking Bears over Vikings, right?
Sure.
All right. So Saints at the Bucks.
Yeah, well, the Bucks.
Mm.
Everyone was. This was the year for Josh Freeman. It had to be this year, or else he's probably going to be run out of town.
Well, pack your bags, Josh.
Yeah, pack him and get on the train to backup quarterbacksville because it looks like they're going to start out 0
Well, it's
2.
unfortunate for him that Mike Tannenbaum isn't a GM anywhere. Otherwise, he'd be given like a 5-year, $50 million contract.
Right. Well, yeah. So they're going to be 0 2, I would say. I think it's pretty safe to assume that the Saints win this game, right?
Right. I'm taking New Orleans. So we have 5 games left. First one of them, Lions at the Cardinals. This is kind of a tough one. I'd take the Lions by like a field goal. I think they're going to try to give this game away, but I think that the talent level on the Lions is far, far ahead of the talent level on the Cardinals.
The Cardinals didn't look too bad in the first half last week, and then they kind of lost it.
Just as a side note, their left tackle, Levi Brown, was unconscionably bad. I mean, he just couldn't block Robert Quinn unless he had a taser or something.
No, well, I think he was the guy that they were talking about in the beginning, in the preseason, that he was going to be a problem, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
And, well,
it was entertaining because the head coach Bruce Arians called him an elite left tackle, and as soon as I heard that, I just cracked up.
right,
Like,
well,
did he not watch any practice whatsoever?
he was watching his high school tapes when he
Oh,
said that. But, yeah, Carson looked good, though.
yeah.
It looks like he might have a great fantasy year, but a terrible real life year.
It
And Fitzgerald,
it
obviously,
feels like 7-9, a bunch of backdoor covers of gambling lines. Fantasy owners of Fitzgerald, Roberts, and Palmer are gonna be happy because they're gonna get their garbage time touchdowns.
right, the garbage time king, Carson Palmer.
Right. And ultimately, I don't think they're gonna win many games.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the Lions here.
You know I'm a big believer in the Lions.
Yeah, that it says a lot that they had all the dumb plays that they did over the course of that game, and they still won fairly comfortably.
Anytime Ndamukong Suh is involved, you know something stupid is going to happen.
Like, what is it? Two or three dumb turnovers by the Lions where they just essentially gave the ball up. That Ndamukong Suh play, the one where the guy didn't complete the catch going to the ground. I mean, they could have had 50 points
Yeah.
if a bunch of things broke their way.
Believe me, I've got Stafford as a QB. You don't need to tell me about all the points that were taken off the board. But this next game looks like
Jaguars, Raiders, whoever wins, we all lose.
I mean, how could this possibly be
How,
on at 4 o'clock? This is a national game, right? So, who wants to see Jaguars Raiders?
just had I think maybe just for to kind of remind these teams what they're playing for, have Jadeveon Clowney just stand at midfield at all times, just to like maybe suspend him or something over the field, just to remind everybody, all right, they they're playing for this guy, or like suspend Teddy Bridgewater next to him. The whoever wins this game, they're probably getting that guy, because
Right.
I can't believe that a game this pitiful is allowed to exist. I mean,
I
here on AM Sports Live, we're full service, so we're gonna cover it. We're contractually obligated. Actually,
sure.
no, we're not. But I don't feel good about it. I
No, but I think I think definitely the Raiders have a bit of a more explosive offense than the Jaguars do.
take Raiders by a field goal, I guess.
I just because of Terrell Pryor, his ability to scramble.
I don't even want to dive into this game.
I this
It's
it's Terrell Pryor versus Blaine Gabbert. I mean,
like I said, whoever wins, we
yeah,
lose.
we're splitting hairs at this point. I go with the Raiders.
All right, but the last three games on the slate make up for it in a big way. First one, this is the last 425 game. Manning Bowl, Broncos at the Giants. Ooh. I'm gonna take the Giants here.
Really?
Because here's the thing, and this has happened before. Everybody gets hyped up over a team, over them looking really good in week one, about like way better than they could ever be possibly expected to repeat on a regular basis. Said team usually loses their second game. And this is when they're traveling from a mountain time zone, almost West Coast time zone, I think like a couple hundred miles away from being West Coast time zone, to the east to play the Giants. And you know that Tom Coughlin just gave them the nobody believes in us speech. You know that Coughlin's probably pissed, which means that this will be one of those games where Eli Manning just throws for five
I
touchdowns for
think
no
Tom Coughlin is
reason.
always pissed. Like
It's
for
just kind of varying
yeah,
levels of
like he
piss.
just wakes up in the morning and he's pissed. You know what I
Like
mean?
mildly annoyed is his happy.
Right, exactly. Well, the case against the Giants is after the David Wilson fumble, they didn't really have much of a running game last Sunday, and Eli was relied upon to carry the offense on his back, and he
He
made some.
almost did it. That's the
Well,
thing, he almost did it.
he almost did it, but he also made some poor decisions and threw a couple picks here and there,
But
and
that's just kind of that's the thing with the Giants. It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. I can't. I'm sorry. It's probably the most cliched movie quote out there. But
here's looking
it's
at you, kid. That's the other one. Yeah.
well, that's the thing. It's like Eli, you could get the four picks, you could get the four touchdowns. David Wilson, you could get that 70-yard touchdown run, you could get two fumbles. It's just like a complete grab bag, spin the wheel kind of thing from week to week. And I feel like this is, you know, how the Giants just in big games, they always seem to hit the right spot on that offensive roulette wheel.
Yeah,
And I feel like this is the game.
Victor Cruz did look good. You're right, but that being said, the Broncos have now it looks like four guys that can get open and are top receiving options with Julius Thomas having a big game on
I
Wednesday.
wouldn't jump to conclusions on Julius Thomas.
Well, at least it looks like he could do something out of the tight
Right.
end spot.
All right.
And of
That's
course
fair.
they've got Welker and Decker, who didn't look too good on
Both
Wednesday.
these teams are going to score at least 35 points.
Yeah, I see the Broncos win a shootout.
I'm saying Giants by a field goal. And oh, by the way, what's going to happen if Peyton Manning throws a crucial interception with 3 minutes left and Eli drives the team down the field for a game-winning field goal? Will that be like the most talked about sports story of the year, of the NFL season, perhaps?
Well, it's a little early. It's only week 2, but
Yeah, but everybody loves to blow the Manning brothers thing out of proportion. We all like to mention how Eli's clutch and elite, and you'll get everybody saying that again, which will piss me off. And we all love to mention how Peyton Manning is a choke artist, even when that's been overblown over the years. But hey, that gets listeners and readers, so you talk about it.
just a
So
little.
if
Oh,
everybody, oh, I was just gonna say, if he does that again against his brother, yeah, I think Twitter will blow up.
yeah. Well, yeah, like you said, they definitely blow the Manning thing out of proportion. But you were talking about elite before,
Hmm.
and this is the term. I hate it when every time someone wins a Super Bowl, they're automatically elite. That's not how it works. Like Joe Flacco is not elite because he had a hot playoff run and won a Super
He had an
Bowl.
elite month.
Yes. And Eli Manning, I understand he won 2 Super Bowls. I understand that he led some good drives in the playoffs and made some good comebacks, but he's too inconsistent to be elite. To be elite, you have to consistently be
Like one of the best in the
one of
game.
the best in the game, and he just hasn't shown that, has he?
Not really. And also, I hate when we're throwing around the term elite. Like, what does it mean? Nobody's ever really defined that.
It's just another word for best group of QBs in the NFL.
It's just a buzzword.
Yeah. It's
Like,
something that Skip Bayless gets excited about.
eh, it's like the kind of thing where, all right, what's going to draw viewers to listen to your Sports Center segment? Where does Joe Flacco rank among QBs? Well, that's not so interesting. Is Joe Flacco elite? Oh, there we go. There we go.
Ratings.
Ratings. Okay. 2 games left. Then we're gonna break down the Eminem interview real quick and get out of here because you have lives to live and we don't want to make you listen to this for 2 hours. Although, if you want a 2 hour one, by all means, message us and we'll attempt it. Niners at Seahawks. Before we discuss this game, Breaking Bad will happen in the middle of this. How do you deal with that?
Breaking Bad takes priority over anything. Honestly, if the Patriots were in the Super Bowl and Breaking Bad was on at the same time, I'd have to go with Breaking Bad.
Really?
It's
Over anything in television history, Breaking Bad.
it's that good. It's the final season, and I couldn't imagine going to school the next day having people going, "Oh my God, did you see what happened last
And
night?"
you just having to dodge spoilers the whole
Yeah,
day.
yes, exactly. That would be a fate worse than death. But yeah, with you, I'm guessing it's not the same with the newsroom.
No, I'd watch the news. The newsroom actually has its finale this upcoming Sunday, and that takes precedence for me. I'm watching that. It's because I'm not sure how many episodes per season AMC shows have. I think Mad Men has like what 20 per season or so.
It's the normal length is 13, but Breaking Bad, the fifth season was split into two parts of 8 episodes each. So this season this was only 8 episodes this
Well,
season.
Newsroom is an HBO season, so that means it's 10 episodes each. And because Sorkin, fairly far along in the writing process, made a dramatic change, we can only see 9 of those episodes. So this is a 9 episode season for the Newsroom. I'm not missing one of those 9 episodes.
Well, yeah. Listen, I don't feel good about missing this game because I think this might be the game of the week
Game
and
of the year,
maybe
even,
even
I
the game of
feel.
the year. But yeah, Breaking Bad takes precedence. But let's get into the game.
First of all, you have two fan bases that actively detest each other. You have a crowd in Seattle that's going to try to shatter the world record for loudest cheer at a sports stadium. It,
and you've got a red hot
it
QB in
you've got
Kaepernick,
you've got Kaepernick versus
who may be
Wilson.
coming off his best passing
You
day.
got Richard Sherman who's gonna try to start a fight with someone. Absolutely. I guarantee you
Two
that.
great defenses.
hmm This is just everything you could ever want from a football game.
Yeah, I'm excited for this game, and I think the home field advantage is going to be very significant for
hmm
Seattle.
I'd say Seattle by like 1 or 2 points. This is close.
And yeah, and everyone is going to be kind of week one overreacting how they only scored 12 points against the Panthers and whatever. But again, the Panthers defense really good, or at least the front seven really, really good. So
Well, also, they knew that they had the Niners coming up, so a lot of teams do this. You actually see Bill Belichick doing this all the time. Some teams will make a conscious effort to not do what they're going to do against their biggest rival or in their biggest game. So Seattle might have been pulling off those, all right, we're going to run Marshawn Lynch into the line over and over again. We're just going to have to grind this one out.
yeah,
hmm
well, that's the problem.
You've seen the Pats do that a bunch of times.
Definitely, I have Marshawn Lynch on my fantasy team, and I did not appreciate that strategy last week. So, yeah, this is a game that could really go either way, but Kaepernick, I can't get over how good he looked last week. I mean,
hmm
he looked fantastic,
it
and
was great because everybody was making such a big deal over the zone read, and he just didn't use it.
not at
And
all.
I feel like it's different than the Wildcat because, like, in terms of it's not a fad, because with the Wildcat, you could see the Wildcat package coming in. Like, you know when it's coming, but the zone read, if you're consistently running it out of the pistol formation, you don't know when it's coming. So you have to play that kind of funky zone defense all the time to contain him, which just means that Anquan Bold then gets 5 yards of leeway to operate downfield. Like just has this pocket that he can sit down in over and over. So this is going to be interesting, I
Yeah,
feel.
I like the Hawks. I think it's going to be a really good game, but I'm taking the Niners just based on how well Kaepernick did last week.
Oh, and by the way, props to Anquan Bolden
And
too.
Anquan Bolden, yes.
Over 200 yards, 2 or 3 touchdowns. I had him in 2 fantasy leagues,
Yeah.
both of them on the bench.
Oh, wow.
I hate everything.
Let's hope you don't make that mistake this week.
But
Well,
that's the thing.
that's how it,
Sherman's on him this
yeah,
week.
that's how it goes. You start him the week after and he puts up a three.
So, thanks, fantasy football. I hate you too. All right. Last game, Monday night, Steelers at Bengals. By the way, in recent years, Sunday night football has gotten infinitely better games than Monday night.
Better games, better presentation,
Better
better
announcers.
announcers, better everything really.
Uh-huh.
It's become the new Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football is almost not even worth watching at this point
It's overrated.
with some well,
It's coasting on its reputation, I feel,
yes,
Monday night
yes.
football.
It's like Tom Brady in like 3 years.
Or it's like, how Derek Jeter will just continue to get selected to every All-Star game no matter what, just
Right.
because he's Derek Jeter.
Yeah.
I feel like Monday Night Football will always exist and will always be the featured game no matter what, just because it's Monday Night Football and it was around when the league took off.
That's right. You're right.
But I don't feel like it's as good anymore. And now it's getting games like Steelers Bengals.
Yeah, which I'm sure the NFL envisioned that this game being a better matchup. They couldn't have predicted how bad the Steelers' offense is this year.
Their offensive line, I don't know who blocks anybody. I don't know who handles Geno Atkins.
No,
I don't think anybody.
but at the same time, the Bengals' offense didn't look too great either.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. I'm taking Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think the Steelers have too many problems to really
Amid
competitively.
my effort to avoid National Jump to Conclusions Week, that's the one conclusion I'm gonna jump to. That the Steelers just suck this year. And I feel kind of bad for Ben Roethlisberger because you're just wasting a year in his prime. But that's the way it goes. He doesn't have any weapons. Somehow Isaac Redman ended up as his as their starting running back in what I can only assume was a horrible, horrible misunderstanding. Um, Nobody on their offensive line. Nobody there can rush the passer anymore. I they just have no assets.
Yeah, I, you and I are on the same page about this, and of course, I followed the Bengals all throughout the Hard Knocks series, and maybe I'm a little bit biased towards them, so
Everybody always is with the Hard Knocks team.
yeah, I'll take the Bengals.
All right, me too. Well, before we get out of here, we have a YouTube clip happened during ESPN's Notre Dame Michigan game this past Saturday that we feel obligated to make you listen to because this was I don't even know what you'd call this. All right, so here's essentially what happened. Halftime, Notre Dame, Michigan, and you know how ESPN's very involved with pop culture. It's trying to make itself kind of entertainment as well as sports, as their name.
Appeal to younger audiences,
Yeah,
maybe.
so they had Eminem come in to pitch his new music video. And before we get to showing you the clip, we should mention that Eminem had probably one of I don't know what to call the look on his face. Just he looked like one of the zombies from 28 Days Later. He just had his mouth hanging open. He was just staring at the desk. Like I have no idea what he was doing. He was either high and terrified. That I don't know exactly what to describe him as.
Well, he was definitely uncomfortable. Whether he was on any illicit substances or not is anyone's guess, but I would say that the probability of that is fairly high.
Well, also, if he was on illicit substances, I think that somebody in his posse should have told him, look, buddy, you're on national TV to pitch your hotly anticipated music video. Maybe you could save the weed for after you get off the air
Well,
when you're not on national TV.
yeah, I don't know if his fans would really care that much about that. They might actually embrace that.
Yeah, but I feel like maybe Eminem or somebody in his, ring of advisors cares about him not looking like an idiot on the air. Because now Eminem's going to be remembered as the guy who looked like an idiot on national television. Well, there are other reports out there that said he wasn't on anything. He was just, like, horrified out of his mind or just completely nervous because apparently like Brent Musburger was one of his heroes or something, and he's just one of those people who kind of just shuts off on national television. So the shock of meeting Brent Musburger combined with being on national television just kind of made him shut down to begin with. So
Yeah, he really gives a lot of credit to Brent, and it's I mean, Brent's pretty good, but I mean, the way he talks, well, we'll see in the clip.
Oh, okay. So here's the preface to this. They have him on for two segments. The first one is we couldn't find it on YouTube. It's probably on there. I'm just too lazy to look. And plus, I queued this up like 10 seconds before the show started. Um, so they had already done one segment of the pitch. He came off looking incredibly awkward, high, whatever you wanted to call it. And during the commercial, through some horrible communication error, ESPN did not forcibly remove him from the broadcast booth. So he was still there for a couple minutes when they got back. So we're going to play some portions of that for you. Hold
Okay.
on, let me cue this up. And apologies if my internet gets a little bit wonky. It is wont to do that from time to time, but it worked okay in the test run. I assume it'll work okay here. So here's the first clip.
Have the single albums coming out in November. What are you most excited about with this new album? Nothing.
Oh, okay. So let me frame this for you. Eminem You're on air. This is your big moment. You've been working really hard on this music video. Now's your moment to sell this thing. What did you most love about the product that you poured your heart and soul into? Nothing. I hated it.
By the way,
Oh.
yeah. Do you think he just answers with that enthusiasm for everything? Like, Eminem, what do you want on your burger? Nothing. Eminem, what kind
What do
of?
you want to do tonight? Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's pretty funny, but it's funny how later in the clip he just kind of, well, yeah,
Don't spoil it.
I'm not
We
gonna
we
spoil
don't
it.
need to spoil the magic for the listeners who haven't seen
Yeah.
listened to this yet.
Well, it'll be out November 5th. I'll probably be most excited to just be done with it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean it's
Okay, so the best thing about the product that he's just put out and that he assumedly or presumptively is probably the better word. I think assumedly is a made up word. He presumptively spent a good amount of money or cashed in a few favors to put on live TV on ESPN this big time product. The best thing about it is that he's done with it.
That's what you call the Matt Markow way of doing things.
Exactly. Markel, what's the best part about your essay? Oh, just done with it.
Just done with it.
That's the
right.
best part.
Right. Well, first you're assuming I'm actually done with it, but yes.
Best part about high school? That I'm done with it. Okay, actually, all things considered, that's not a terrible answer. Uh, okay, now here's the next thing we wanted to show you. So, now Brent Musburger has realized that this is not a real segment and you can have some fun with it. So, he decides to dive into a subject that, as an announcer, especially a sports announcer, could get him into a little bit of trouble. Let's listen.
One final question before you leave. Some of my friends in Montana wanted me to ask you. Will the Lions cover 4.5 tomorrow against Minnesota?
Okay, so at this point, Brent Musburger's just saying, screw it. Okay. I can ask him about gambling. This isn't a real thing.
Right. Well, first off, friends in Montana asking about the Detroit Lions. What do they have to do with
Friends
the
in
Lions?
Also, are there any does Montana even have casinos?
Are there even people living in Montana?
I just assumed it was beautiful mountains and forests.
Yes.
Like that's it.
Yes, untouched by society or something. But
Yeah, I have some friends in Montana who want to know. I want to know more about the friends in Montana.
well, hold on. Eminem is a gambling expert, and he's really good at picking. So let's see his response.
Okay.
will the Lions cover 4.5?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, man. I don't ever make a prediction on the Lions because I don't ever want to jinx it. But I'm
Too late.
Yes, well, believe me, the Lions don't need you to jinx them on top of all of the other bad luck.
Would it
that
even
they've-
make a difference? It'd just be kind of piss in the ocean at this point.
Right, exactly.
such a diehard Lions fan, like to the core. So yes, they'll win.
Wait, I'm not gonna make a prediction because I don't want to jinx them, but yeah, they're gonna win. Thanks, Eminem. You're the best.
That's all you'll say. Leave it at that. Yeah. I'm hoping I didn't just jinx it. But
At least he acknowledges it. All right.
Well, Detroit fans, if the Lions lose, it's because of Eminem jinxing
Although if
it.
they win the Super Bowl, Eminem's gonna have to come back every single season to do this interview.
Right, exactly.
All right.
it's the kickoff point, so stick right here with us now. It's gonna
All right. Though there's the kickoff, so presumably that's Eminem's cue to get out of the booth, and Brett Musburger's just gonna gracefully and mercifully end this segment so they could get back to announcing the game unfolding
Hmm.
in front of them. Well, does this happen? No, of course not. Let's listen.
the Wolverines ball. They've got the lead out to the 25-yard line. So, Marshall, again, it was a pleasure having you with us.
Sure it was.
Absolutely. Brett, just like they have fantasy football or whatever.
Wait, what are you doing, Eminem?
I got you on my fantasy announcer team.
Wait, what are you describing?
I'm not
right
sure
now?
he actually knows what fantasy football is. You know how they have fantasy football or whatever, or the thing called fantasy football. All right, whatever.
Yeah, it's a football and it's a fantasy.
I've heard of it. I don't know what it is, but yeah.
Fantasy announcer team. Tell us more, Eminem.
It would be you, and then, of course, the late great Pat Summerall.
Okay, I have to give him some credit. How does he know who Pat Summerall is?
Yeah,
It's anybody's
it's
guess.
anybody's guess.
Okay,
He enjoyed the stylings of his music, Pat Summerall. Yes.
And John Madden and Al Michaels, if you guys would get together and just call a game, Kirk, you're great too.
I love that part. Kirk is just standing there while he's just well, this is this has got to be so uncomfortable for Kirk. He's just standing there while Eminem is just effusively praising Brent Musburger.
He's essentially
Is-
saying, Brent, you're a Hall of Famer.
Screw you, Kirk.
Yeah, screw you, Kirk. Exactly.
Oh, don't worry, you're okay too.
Yeah, that's the same thing as saying no offense and then saying something incredibly offensive.
Exactly.
Much respect, but
Not quite to that status yet.
You see, Kirk knows it. He's wildly uncomfortable.
Yeah, at this point, Kirk's like, please leave. Please just leave.
Well,
Well,
that's
actually,
the
he was
thing.
like that about a minute into the segment, but
Well, that's the thing. They seem like nice guys, too nice to say, "All right, we have a job to do." If this were you or me in the booth, we would absolutely be mean enough to say, "All right, Eminem, just get the hell out of here."
yeah. Well, I don't know what they can do live on TV, but it's during the commercial break.
No,
Yeah,
could we like just kind of just caber toss him out of
Yeah.
the booth?
do that the cliched. They bring the hook from backstage and give him the hook, both proverbially and literally.
yeah, right. But you being a legend, and you know, if you got with Al,
By the way, just to let you know, there's a game going on right now. Like, they're not in commercial or right after the half anymore. There's plays being executed right now.
Michaels, man, and John Madden, they just called one Lions game. The Super Bowl probably would be great. We all just
One Lions game, the Super Bowl.
Boy,
Yeah, dream on,
Yeah,
buddy.
that's really he just jinxed it. How are they gonna make it to the Super Bowl?
I don't want to jinx it, but Lions are gonna win. And by the way, I want you there when they're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but man, that would be like a dream come true for me, man. That's great, man. You are a legend, my friend. Thank you.
You're the legend, my friend.
But Brett Musburger is pretending like he knows who this guy is.
Yeah, Brent Musburger. Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't want to, cater to stereotypes here, but Brett Musburger's a 60-year-old guy. I don't think he's listening to Eminem.
He's a little out of the demo, and it's strange that Eminem's his dream come true, is to hear Al Michaels, John Madden, and Brent Musburger announce a Lions game.
No, a Lions game, which is presumably the Super Bowl.
I can understand, like, oh, you really want the Lions to win the Super Bowl, but he's got it down to the announcers. I like that.
Well, that I can relate to because my dream was always like at a Jets Super Bowl, if it ever happens, to have Bruce at halftime.
Right. Well, that's different than you don't care if Al Michaels is announcing or Joe Buck. I mean,
No, I'd kind of care if Dan Deerdorf were announcing.
Oh yeah, you'd preferably want someone not Dan Dierdorf, but would it really matter if the Jets won the game? No, right?
Also, how would a four-man booth between Brent Musburger, Pat Summerall, Al Michaels, and John Madden work? Yeah, has there ever been a four-person team and announcing a game?
I don't think you can fit that many egos in one room.
I don't think you can fit John Madden through the door, like physically.
Boom, connect. Yeah.
All right, so let's wind this clip down. We got 23 seconds left.
13 Grammys, first rap song to win an Academy Award, an original score. You've sold 100 million records worldwide. You, my friend, are the legend, no doubt about that.
Now I'm really uncomfortable right now.
That was the only way. That was the only way that entire interview could have ended.
Yeah.
With somebody admitting that they're uncomfortable.
It's weird that he added the right now over the thing because he was clearly uncomfortable the whole time. And when Brent Musburger was listing all those stats about Eminem, that was just somebody in his ear going, "All right, he did this, he did this, he did this."
It's like during commercial break, a 20-year-old intern rushed in and was
Yeah.
like, "All right, I printed out his Wikipedia page. Here you go."
Right. Otherwise, he would have no
All
idea.
right, Eminem, you are the music guy, I think.
Eminem, you endorse like the candy product, right?
You're standing here for some reasons, which means you must be kind of important, I
Yeah.
guess. All right, well, on that note, I'm pretty sure it's time to wrap up the show. This is our longest show ever, hour and a half. Thank you for sticking with us, Matt. Any last thoughts?
I'm really uncomfortable right now.
The only way this broadcast could end. Well, before we sign off, make sure to follow us on Twitter at AM Sports Live 1, Facebook at AM Sports Live, Gmail, amsportslive at gmail.com, all of that good stuff, and follow the national sports station on Spreaker.com or subscribe to our YouTube channel. So, that's it. Matt's uncomfortable right now. I have the hankering to go play some NBA 2K12, so I'm going to sign off. Your September 13th edition of AM Sports Live is now off the air. We'll see you back here, hopefully, next Tuesday. So long, everyone.